is the official Microsoft scripting guys blog. So, you know, follow blogs, follow the server blogs. If you have a very specific skill set, I'm pretty sure, you know, they'll be using PowerShell in that particular area. But what I wanted to do was learn core PowerShell, you know, wax on, wax off, and learn how to use it phonetically. And watching Don Jones's videos literally got me on the ladder. I mean, for myself, I came from a perspective of previously I'd use a lot of DOS commands, you know, Windows 3.11 back in the day, probably a bit before some of your times, Windows 3.11, Windows 95, you know, batch files like the autoexec.bat and the config sys. So I've come from a lot of, you know, using the old legacy command line, you know, tools and stuff, and transitioning into PowerShell was quite easy because you've got what they call aliases. So whereas in the command line you would type dir to view you know, a list of directories, you could still type dir in PowerShell. However, you're not using the command.com dir. You're actually using a PowerShell commandlet called getChild item.
Yeah, I mean, my own take on that. So what Andrea said is accurate. My own take on that is like, as IT professionals, even though we're all IT professionals, we've got different methods of approaching things, different ways of approaching stuff. So my own method of approaching things is, because I like my own understanding, and it's true regarding the IT industry, is that there's so much overloading of information around. So like you said,
Mm-hmm.
you want to learn, let's say whatever you want to learn, you want to learn PowerShell. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you're using CBT Nugget video, then all of a sudden somebody's pulling you and saying, well, Twin Sigma is really, really good. And then someone is like, Pluralsight is awesome. And then another person is like, man, the articles are the best. Another person is like, man, I just got this 15 pounds book. It's really the greatest. So basically, you're
Mm-hmm.
just bombarded from every angle. And you're like, hold on, hold on, hold on. So usually my own style is I just start with the textbook, whether it's the Microsoft official one or any textbook. I just stay with that, you know. Anybody else may be saying, well, I want you to follow this article. I'm like, no, you know, I want to get basics first. And one book I
Mm-hmm.
really recommend is the guy that Andrew mentioned, the guy Don Jones. He's got a book called PowerShell in Depth. Now, the title is in depth, but it's not actually like it's not going in depth like that. It's just talking about the basics of PowerShell. And to tell you the truth, a lot of the things that we're going to be discussing all through this PowerShell series, from the basics and fundamentals till we get to the advanced levels, are from that book because that's the book that I've read. It's the book that got me introduced to PowerShell. Title is called. Actually, I'll just look it up on Amazon now. HTTPS Amazon. So it's called PowerShell in Depth by Don Jones. So I just follow that because it just goes from one chapter to another chapter. And then that way I'm not overloaded with information. Then let's say I'm reading the Don Jones book, and then all of a sudden it starts talking about variables in PowerShell. Then I can go online and search for more information on variables in PowerShell. I can read articles on variables in PowerShell and stuff like that. But then I just usually like to stick to something and just carry on with that. I mean, if you're looking for recommendation from me, I'll recommend, you know, that particular book because it's like a really, really good one. Any other thought out there? The question that
Yeah, I was
Eric
wondering if
answered. Carry,
could I share my console, PowerShell console? Yeah,
um,
give you a quick. Could I share my screen?
yeah, you can share your screen. You can share your screen.
Let me share my console. Let me know if you can all see it.
Yeah, can see your screen now. Can you see Andrew's screen now? Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I tend to do, and my advice, the best advice I can give to anybody for PowerShell is open the console. If you want to get started with PowerShell, open the console. And literally, like I said, dir, cls, cd, /, all the commands that you've got all work. Whereas basically, normally, you see I'm typing a command there called cd to move back and forth. I'm typing cls what I'm actually doing is I'm actually using PowerShell, because PowerShell will translate a lot of these commands. So you might think, oh, PowerShell, I've got to learn scripting. No, don't worry about scripting, because the most important thing about PowerShell is it's a console and it's an interface. You know, you can use it instead of using the GUI. So you could use it in your day-to-day job just to do simple, simple everyday tasks. You know, you might want to create a user account. Again, this isn't a server, but new AD user, for example, if I was on a server, is the commandlets are they're all there basically for you. In short, let's take a look at this one. GCI, get child item. What you've got on PowerShell is you've got help, and PowerShell uses what's called a verb noun construct. So you've got your verb hyphen noun. And that's how all the commandlets work. So if we do get help, dir, yeah, and take a look at it, you'll find out you're not actually using dir, you're using a PowerShell commandlet called getChildItem. It's what's called an alias. So if we do get alias dir, dir is actually getChildItem. PowerShell is full of aliases. As you can see, there's tons of them. Pretty much everything. Change dir, clear, CLS, CLV, you probably diff, you probably echo, you've probably seen a lot of these commands throughout your career, of just doing basic Windows administration. Your PowerShell console isn't much different than your command.com console. You could do an IP config. Your command.com com objects will work just as easy in the PowerShell window as they do in the in your command.com. The final thing I'm going to show you is once you get started with PowerShell, I wouldn't worry about books and I wouldn't worry about looking for things online. This is the most important command you need. Get help. Yeah, and you can just even type help. It's exactly the same thing. There's an alias for it. So, say for example, if I wanted to understand this get child item, I could do get help, and I'll use the alias dir, and if I wanted to know how to use it, notice I'm typing the first three commands of examples here, and I press the tab. There's tab completion in here, so you don't even have to know all of the commands, all the commandlets. All you need to do is type dir, press the hyphen, and if you press the tab key, PowerShell will cycle completely through all the commandlets for you, all the options for you. So for here, in the help, I can actually get the full help, I can get examples, I can get detailed. I'm going to get some examples. Built in to each function, and normally one or two examples, sometimes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of how to use it. Get child item explains how it's used there. There's a different example, explains how it's used there. You've got all sorts. It's awesome. And that's the end of my demo for now. Any questions?
Yeah, I mean, okay. What we can do is let's go here. So we'll start all the way from the beginning. Because today, if I look on our agenda for today, we're discussing the basics of PowerShell, basics of PowerShell syntax, PSSnapins and modules, PowerShell operators, working with working with objects, the pipeline, basic PowerShell formatting. So those are the things that we're going to be discussing today. Let's start a bit from the basics. So from the very beginning, what's like your current understanding and usage of PowerShell? Let's start with, let's say, Aaron, if you want to start, and then let's go to Eric, and then we go. So what's like your current understanding and knowledge of PowerShell? So let's start with that first of all. So do you currently, how often do you use PowerShell? Maybe in a lab environment, at work, or something like that? Aaron, you want to speak, or we can get Eric to speak?
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll
Yeah.
chime in.
Okay. Carry on. Carry on.
It's embarrassing because I have so little experience with it, which
It's
is
not embarrassing at all. No, it's not.
okay. So
Yeah.
to be honest, my interpretation or my what I compare it to is just like the Linux equivalent. So a command. So instead of using GUIs for everything, which can in the future automation, I believe automation is the future of technology, and because of that, GUIs aren't scalable. So they had to come. Microsoft came up with the alternative,
Yeah.
which was PowerShell, which is kind of what I compare to Linux and command prompt.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okay. Good one.
Yeah.
Good one. Yeah. What about
What
what
you'll
about?
find, Eric,
Yeah. Carry on. Carry
so
on.
what you'll find, Eric, is a lot of the Linux commands like ls and some bash commands have aliases also in PowerShell. So a lot of those have been emulated also. So pretty much you could take your expertise and your knowledge of Linux, you can open up a command console. In fact, everyone who's in front of a computer now, yeah, you should all open up your PowerShell command prompt while you're here now and type a command in. Everybody do that right now, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, Frank, what about you? Like, what's your current usage or understanding of PowerShell?
I use it quite a bit.
Yeah.
I use it every day.
Yeah. Nice one.
Um, I try to use it more than anything else.
Great.
So if I know a GUI way to do it, then I just force myself to do it through command or
Nice.
through PowerShell.
Nice. Nice one. Nice one, man. And where are you joining from, Frank? This is your first time in a hangout.
I'm joining from New Orleans, Louisiana.
Ah, nice. Nice one. Nice to have you around, man. Nice to have you around. Good one. And are you currently studying for MCSE, or you finished studying for MCSE, or what like, yeah, where are you
I
currently?
just got MTA not too long ago, but now I'm looking for MCSA.
Ah, nice one, man. Nice one. Good one. How the best, man. Oh, yeah. Okay. So what about you, Louis? So what's like your current understanding and usage of PowerShell? So your mic is muted. You may need to unmute yourself. Yeah, you're muted now. Carry on. Ah, we still can't hear you for some reason. Even though your mic is unmuted, we can hear you. Louis, we can hear you. You may need to check your mic. No, we can hear you still.
Is
No.
there a PowerShell command to help him with his mic?
Unmute Louis.
Get-microphone.
No, we can't hear you. Maybe you type, but you need to sort out your mic. What about Sergio? Carry on, Sergio. So what's your current usage and understanding of PowerShell? So then we move on from there.
Sergio's muted.
Yeah, you're muted, Sergio. You need to unmute yourself. Yeah, good. You're muted again. Yeah, good. So we should be able to hear you now. Carry on.
Oh, do you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Good.
Okay. I want to take the 4011 certification with MCA,
Yep.
so I want to learn a little bit of PowerShell.
Okay. Nice one. Nice one. So do you currently use PowerShell, like maybe in your lab environment or in your work or something like that? You make use of it a lot.
Well, in my job,
Yeah.
I I have a lot of Windows experience, but on PowerShell not so much.
Yeah. Okay. Good one. Okay. So let's start from the beginning. So if I do one thing I'll do is I'll share my screen, and for some reason my screen is I'm not sure. Looks looks really, yeah, okay. So I'll share my screen and then we'll just start all the way right from the beginning. So I mean in the book again is PowerShell in Depth by Don Jones that Andrew mentioned. So the guy's name is Don Jones, but the book's name is PowerShell in Depth, and I think there's a second edition by Don Jones and others. Okay, so basically, one of the main things that he said right at the beginning in understanding PowerShell, he said to think of PowerShell as your command version of the Microsoft Management Console. Now, you know what the Microsoft Management Console is, right? What the Microsoft Management Console is, what it does, and how it operates. So if I go on my computer, you can see my screen now. I bring up my command prompt. I go to MMC. I bring up the Microsoft Management Console. So I have this console here, but this console is basically empty. It's got nothing in it. It can do nothing for me. It's an empty management tool. It's a tool that can manage a lot of things, but it's got nothing in it. So to make use of this Microsoft Management Console to be useful for me, I've got to add something called snapping. And depending on the snapping that I had, that's what determines what I'll have access to. For example, I can say I want to add a snapping to manage certificates. And then all of a sudden, I'll have the ability to manage certificates from the Microsoft Management Console. I can decide, I want to add a snapping to manage Active Directory users and computers. And now, from the same Microsoft Management Console, I can access, I can manage the Active Directory users and computers. I can decide I want to add even the Exchange snapping. Microsoft Exchange uses Microsoft Management Console. But the core of it is that Microsoft Management Console by itself, it's useless until you begin to add extensions to it. So the way Don Jones put it very, very beautifully, because I can't put it any better than that, is that when you bring up PowerShell on your machine, if I go and I bring up PowerShell on my machine, PowerShell by itself, it's empty. It's basically empty. It can't really do much until I begin to add some extensions to PowerShell. Then I can begin to make use of it to manage Active Directory, to manage Exchange, to manage SharePoint, to manage Office 365. But by itself, it's just an empty shell. It really can't do much for me. So who knows what those extensions of PowerShell, what they're called? So PowerShell by itself is empty. By itself is empty and can't do much, like MMC. Till you begin to add extensions. So who knows what the extensions that you had to PowerShell, what are they called? I'm sure won't ask Andrew, I'm sure Andrew. So Andrew, you can help the rest of us with that. And you can probably expound more on it for us. Yeah, carry on, Andrew.
Can I buzz in?
Yeah, carry on.
David, I think for 5 points, I say commandlet.
Commandlet, Andrew, come on, Andrew, no,
Are you talking about PowerShell modules?
Good one, Andrew.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
So
at the most,
yeah.
Go on, sorry.
Actually,
at the most fundamental level,
yeah.
The code is written. Wait with me a moment.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, comes on. Sorry, wife's coming into the kitchen, so let me just turn my camera off a second.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
Okay, it's all clear. Go.
Yeah. Okay.
That's something you don't want to see.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the most fundamental level, your code is written in commandlets. Your commandlets are nested into modules, or in some cases, you compile commandlets stored in PSSnapins.
Good one. So Andrew has mentioned 2 things now. Let's make note of them. Andrew said PSSnapins, and the other thing he said are modules. So here's my next question. Let me ask Frank. So Frank, what's the difference between PSSnapins and modules? So we're talking about, we have PowerShell. This is an empty shell. It can't really do much for us until we begin to add extension to it. Same way as MMC. So now there are 2 types of extensions that we can add to PowerShell. We can add PSSnapins or modules. So what's the difference between these 2?
Not really sure.
Yeah, it's all right not to be sure yet. Not until I read again. The book is PowerShell, in really, really good book. Again, this title throws people off in terms of, it says in depth, but it's not actually like in depth. It's just basics and fundamentals. So who wants to help us with that? So okay, yeah, good one. So Eric says snappings is previous to 2.0, right? Yeah, you're right. You're in the right direction, actually, Eric. So what else? Like, what else about PSSnapins and modules? So Eric is writing that PS snapping. So PS snapping is more of like the older way to add extensions to PowerShell. So you've got, if I go to my PowerShell again, let's make this a bit larger. Um, let's make the font a bit larger. Okay, that's good. Okay, and then if I say get PS snapping, I can get the PS snappings that are on this computer. So I've got it's got one PS snapping here. But if I go get module, yeah, okay, we'll come back to that. So I say get PS snapping, I get, one. I get module also shows me one, but we'll come back to that. So, but the main thing is that PS snapping are kind of like the older way of adding extensions to PowerShell. So in the previous versions of PowerShell, PowerShell version 2, you have to install sort of like an application onto your computer. After you install the application, then you have the application, have snapping available in PowerShell. Then basically you have to go in PowerShell and go get PS snapping, and then you go add PS snapping, and then you specify the name of the PS snapping that you want to add, and then you can begin to use PS snapping. So that's like the old way. But now from PowerShell version 3, Microsoft came up with a different way of adding extensions to PowerShell called modules. And modules are much more simpler. And one of the main differences between PS snapping and module is this. You come here on your machine, you want to use the commandlet, like Andrew said, that you get from a snapping. I have to first of all add PS snapping. After I had the PS snapping, I had the name of the snapping, then I can begin to use the PowerShell commandlet. But you know what? After I finish, and it's the same thing with modules, and I close the session, that's it. But here's the thing with module. I go get module, right? Let me go get module again, sorry. Get module, it shows me just one module. But let me go get AD user. Then look at what will happen. Okay, I've got this. I don't want that again. I go get module again. Now look at this. I've got two modules now. So module, you don't actually have to go and say import module, add module, or anything. As long as the module is in a particular part, the moment you type any command relating to that module, PowerShell will automatically load it. So I've just typed get AD user, and all of a sudden it's loaded this one. Okay, let's try another one. Can
I just jump in?
Carry on.
Just jump in a second.
Carry on. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you show them get module -list available?
Yeah, I will show that also. I will do that.
So you coming to that?
Yeah, so I'll do that. So I wanted to bring up a point here that module, one of the differences between PS snappings and module is that modules automatically load. So all you need to do is type the command related to that module. For example, if I want to get the DNS, get DNS server, yeah, you'll probably just go not work or something like that. Yeah, fail to get it. But now let me go back to this and let me go get module again. Now I've got the DNS server module automatically added. So you get the point. The point with the difference between module and PS snapping is that one automatically loads itself, while the other you have to basically, add it manually using commandlet. Yeah, okay, yeah. So what Andrew said is this. So obviously we have more modules on this computer than this folder we're seeing. So if I want to see all the modules that are available on this computer, I can go get module list available, and I can see all the modules that are available on this computer. So you can see lots of modules. So again, think of modules like your MMC, like your certificate snapping, like your Active Directory users and computer snapping. Think of modules that way. Think of modules like, like your Exchange console snapping to MMC. So these are all the modules that are available on this computer. And the moment I type any command related to assigned access, it will automatically load it in PowerShell. I don't have to go import. I see a lot of people still writing script. They'll go add module. Sorry, they will go type something and then they will go import module first. You don't really have to do that if you put the module in a particular path on your computer. If you don't put it in a particular part on your computer, you may have to. Which leads me to another thing. So all these modules, where do they live on my computer? Where can I physically find the files on my computer? Andrew, you want to go for that? So where do I want to see where all these modules live on my computer.
Well, the modules are simply, but just in some cases, as you see on the left-hand side there,
Yep.
you've got on the left-hand side of Davy's console, you've got manifest modules, you've got binary modules, and you've also got script modules. So you've got a number of different types, and they're all stored under C Windows System 32. I think it's PowerShell 1, and then let's have a look.
Let's go C Windows System 32.
System 32.
Yep. Then after System 32.
Is it Windows PowerShell? It's Windows PowerShell. There you go. I normally type in PowerShell, but yeah, it's Windows PowerShell, and then V1.0.
Windows PowerShell, you said?
No, sorry. See Windows System 32.
System 32. Okay. System 32. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Then after
underneath Windows PowerShell.
Windows PowerShell. Okay. So look for that. Windows PowerShell. Okay.
Yeah. Now there's only one folder underneath there, version 1.
Yeah.
And then underneath there, modules.
Good one. So you can see. So if I go under modules now, you can see all these modules that I can see. So basically, you can go online, look for a module that someone has created, download it, save it under this folder, and if you come here and type any commandlet relating to that module, it will automatically load it, and you can use those commandlets. So I'm not sure if that point is clear. Is that clear at all? Or is there any questions regarding that? Yeah, good one. I wanted to ask that question for Andrew, because Andrew, you brought that up. So what's the difference between manifest, binary, and script?
Well, you've got compiled modules which are compiled in C#. Those basically are like your binary modules. Literally C whatever coded developers can write these stuff and make it available for you. You've also got scripts which are stored in you've got modules which are commandlets which are stored in manifest, and you've also got script modules which are just you can actually make your own PowerShell commandlets, and this is the benefit of PowerShell. You could create your own script, and then you can store it in a function. And you can actually also store that function as a script, and that would be like a script module for you.
But I mean, is there any difference in the way they work?
No, not at all. It's all the same thing. It's just different ways to fry a fish, basically.
Yeah, good. So basically, so I'm not sure. Did I answer your question? Did I answer your question, Eric? Or is there any particular thing that you're looking for? Feel free to use your mic.
It takes too much effort to unmute to say yes. But yes.
Yeah. So basically, they are like different ways of the same thing. So I'm looking at the Microsoft website now. It says script modules are usually PSM1, so which is basically PowerShell scripts modules. So you've written your own modules using PowerShell. Binary modules are .dll, and manifest modules are described in keys and values. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense.
But that's good. I found the article you're talking about. I'll reference that as well.
Yeah.
But Andrew's high level overview that helped.
Yeah. But in terms of functioning, the function the same. I mean, similarly the same way. Or Frank, do you have anything to add, or does anyone have anything to add regarding module, script, manifest, and the differences between them and how they function? Anyone has anything to add? Okay, yeah. So let's move on. So now we've talked a bit about PowerShell. The way PowerShell operates is that PowerShell by itself has nothing. It's like really like almost useless till you begin to add extensions to it. And there are two types of extensions you can add. You can add PSSnapins or you can add modules. PSSnapins are the old methods which you don't use anymore. Actually, Microsoft discourages people from creating, PowerShell extensions using PSSnapins. Yeah, because imagine you have the simplicity of you don't have to be importing every time before you're able to use the command. All you need to do is type the command and the console itself will automatically load it. So that's like some of the stuff there. Okay, so moving ahead from this one. So let's go to some of the basics, because one of the things that makes PowerShell confusing to people from my own experience is because there are different types, different ways it works. You go on this computer, you type get AD user, and all of a sudden you're getting an error. You go on this computer, you type get AD user, and all of a sudden everything is working. And it seems confusing because how come this command is working here? How come this command is not working here? How come this command is giving me an error here, and this same command is running here? You get the point. So because of all these differences, it makes things like look really, really complicated to people because of like all these differences. And I know I had issues with that at the very beginning. So one of the reasons for that is for us to understand that there are different PowerShell versions. So there are different versions. So you go to a computer that has PowerShell version 1, definitely you get more commandlets if you go on a computer that has PowerShell version 2. If you go on a computer that has PowerShell version 3, you definitely get more commandlets than a computer that has PowerShell version 2. If you go on a computer that has PowerShell version 4, you get more commandlets than a computer that has PowerShell version 3. If you go on a computer that has PowerShell version 5, which is the latest release, which is not yet fully released by Microsoft, you get more commandlets than you get if you're using a computer that's running PowerShell version 4. Now, here's my question. I just got on a computer. I'm a system admin. I want to find out what version of PowerShell is on this computer that I'll be using as an admin. Because it's important, because it determines what commands, that I'll get access to. So it's really important. So how do I check the PowerShell version of my computer? So Frank or Louis, you can type that. Or Sergio, you've been quiet, and Louis. So how do I find out PowerShell? Carry on. Carry on, Frank.
I was just going to say the $PS version table.
Yeah, great, excellent. $PS version table. I go enter, and there you go. On my computer. So basically, I'm a system admin. I just got to an office. I'm handed a laptop. I want to check. If I'm going to be using PowerShell to do any administration, I want to check what version of PowerShell do you have on this. So now I've got PowerShell version 4 on this computer. Okay, let's say I want to say, okay, there are some commands that I want to use that I can only use on PowerShell version 5. How do I get PowerShell version 5 on this computer? What do I need to do to get PowerShell version 5 on this computer? Because these are like, the basics, the foundations of things that you watch out for as a system admin if you're going to be using PowerShell for administration. One of the first things you need to know is you sit down at your computer, you need to know what are the modules that are available, on this computer. Because that will determine, what you can manage. Somebody just yesterday, one of our network admins at work. But what we've done is we've given them, the right to make their own DNS changes and so. And it was like you've got on the wiki page, you've got this little line of code that tells me how to add, a DNS record using PowerShell. He said, but I'm typing this command and I'm getting, and it's not working. What's going on? I said, type get module list available. Can you check if DNS server is one of the modules that's available on your computer? No. So in that case, you can't manage DNS using your computer. No problem, Sergio. So you get the point. You can't manage DNS using your computer if you don't have the DNS module, if you don't have the PowerShell DNS module on your computer. So in the same way, the versions that you've got determines what you've got access to. So if I want PowerShell version 5 on this computer, Andrew, help us out. What do we need to do? We need PowerShell version 5 on this computer.
Okay, yeah. Okay, the PowerShell. I was actually just looking up something else. I was just gonna send a message just to correct something.
Yeah.
Let me just give you a quick correction to everybody about stuff which we had before.
Yeah.
You know, earlier when we navigated, I was quickly looking up some citation for you all.
Yeah.
You know, earlier we navigated into C Windows System 32 in the PowerShell folder.
Yeah.
And, you know, we said that was the location to drop any modules
Yeah.
that you create. That's actually not the correct place to type. To pop them.
You're
You'd
referring to
actually
this one,
stick.
right? Are you referring to the system variable that gives you the path where you can save PowerShell command? Is that the one you're referring to?
No, what I was talking about
Yeah.
is creating power. Type in help about underscore profiles, please, in the console.
Yeah.
And that'll bring up what's on my screen for everybody. No, the help and then space. About underscore profiles.
This one?
Okay, right. Okay, so you've not updated your help, have you?
No.
Yeah. Important thing to know about PowerShell, and that's going to take about 10 minutes to do, is after PowerShell 3 and later, the actual built-in help is Microsoft have decided not to include the help because the help gets updated all the time. So as soon as you get a new computer, there's no help on it. You've got to first of all type update-help, and that will connect to Microsoft's website. It will download the latest help files for you, and then you'll have the updated help on your machines. And there is a method to actually download it into a way that you can deploy to all the machines in your enterprise. But again, that's you can just type in about underscore help, and that will basically give you that information. But what I was going to tell you basically is that underneath your user profile, under My Documents, you would create a folder called Windows PowerShell.
Is it this one?
Yep.
Yeah. So basically, this part, if you type on your computer, this variable part, environment PS module part, it will show you the folders that you can drop any module that you download that PowerShell will automatically load. So there are 3 of them by default. So there's this one, which is the one that we went to earlier. There's C program files, Windows PowerShell modules, and all this one are system parts. System parts, same way where you have like your Java system part and stuff like that, and this one. Carry on, Andrew.
Yeah. Wait a second. I'm trying to type in my console, but Control-C isn't working. Yeah. What you've got basically, you've got a number of places. I mean, you've got we're getting a bit advanced going into modules anyway, so it's simply type in help underscore about modules, and I've pasted it into about profiles, sorry, and read the document there. I'll tell you about it. I mean, you can store your profiles under your current user, current host, your current user, all hosts, and then all users, current hosts, and all users, all hosts. And those are like 4 places which you can actually store your modules and your profiles for yourselves. Literally, you create a folder called modules underneath those locations, and literally PowerShell will find them automatically. Right, back to the question I was actually asked, which is how do you install or update PowerShell to a new version? PowerShell comes as a downloadable product called Windows Management Framework.
Great one. Let me put that up for people. So we're talking about PowerShell version. So after you've checked your PowerShell version using PS version table, then if you want to update it, carry on, Andrew.
Yeah. So Windows Management Framework is what you need to download.
Yeah.
So literally PowerShell 4 is Windows Management Framework 4, PowerShell 5 is Windows Management Framework 5.
Yeah, great one. So basically, you have to do what Andrew said, which is basically you have to go online and look for Windows Management Framework 4 if you need PowerShell version 4. If you need PowerShell version 5, you need to go and look for Windows PowerShell management framework 5. Now, here is one other thing to notice because here is where like the whole confusion comes with people. And I myself, I struggled with that at the beginning because you get on this computer, you can you can type this command, but you get on this computer, you can't type this command. For example, Windows Management Framework 4, which is PowerShell version 4, comes by default on server 2012 R2 and server and Windows 8.1. So by default, they come with PowerShell version 4. So Windows 7 Service Pack 1, by default, it comes with PowerShell version 3. So it comes with that by default. So here's the thing. I can go online and download Windows PowerShell Management Framework 5, but I can only run it on Windows Server 2012 R2, Windows Server 2012, and Windows 8.1. I can't run it on Windows 7. I'm not sure. Is that accurate, Andrew? Am I missing the point? Because I think that's why
Sorry, I messed up there then. Sorry, say that again.
So I think you can only run Windows PowerShell Management Framework 5 on a machine that is running Server 2012 R2, Server 2012, and Windows 8.1. I think that's why I read.
No,
Is that accurate?
that's the currently Windows Management Framework 5 is currently in its preview release.
Yeah.
It's not actually been released fully yet. I mean, what you'll find is the Windows Management Framework is usually supported on previous versions of Windows. So you'll get, for example, the latest version of PowerShell. However, you won't have all of its functionality because what will happen is the Windows Management Framework will take advantage of the new technologies that are built into the operating system. And if those, because PowerShell runs on top of .NET. So if, for example, that .NET code and those DLLs and the like are not available within your current operating system, then obviously those commandlets are not going to work within your operating system and they're not going to be available. So you'll get a reduced version of it. In some cases, you'll get a more improved version of it, but not always, yeah. But you can get up to a new version by downloading WMF in the most part. But again, while this WMF 5 is still in its preview, I'm not actually sure what operating system is actually supported.
So for example, no, it's I can see. I mean, this is why I was reading earlier, so I'll maximize this. So it says here, it says WMF 5.0 preview February 2015 installed exclusively on Windows 8.1, Server 2012 R2, and Server 2012. So those are the only three where they mentioned that you can install it on.
Yeah, and that's just probably because it's a preview release and
well,
it's still testing as a beta.
Yeah.
So I think it's more. I mean, historically, once the actual full version is released, then they do have it working.
But for example, you cannot run PowerShell version 4 on maybe Windows XP or stuff like that. So they do actually get to a point where they're like, you can't run these on older versions. So for example, if you got Windows XP, you can run PowerShell version 4. So PowerShell version 3, you can run on Windows 8. It comes, integrated with Windows 8. So when you buy Windows 8 or sorry 2012, it comes with PowerShell version 3. It's available for Windows 7 Service Pack 1, Windows 2008 Service Pack 1, and Windows 2008 R2. But basically, it's not available for Windows Vista. So you get the point. So it depends on your operating system. So that's where some of the things get confusing for many people, is that you get on Vista, you're like, oh, how come I can't run this command on this one? Well, it's because you can only get up to a particular version of PowerShell on Vista. If you're running Windows 7, you can only get to a particular version of PowerShell on that one. And I'm sure they're going to keep doing it the same way. For example, you can run Windows PowerShell 2 on Vista. You can run it on Vista 2003, but you can't run for PowerShell 3 on Vista in 2003. You can only run PowerShell version 2. And there's a lot of commandlet difference between version 2 and version 3. For example, version 2 said has 240 new commandlets than version 1. And how many more commandlet does version 3 have than version 2? So okay, I can see that. But yeah, basically, if I come back to my shell again, and I want to check, okay, this is a Windows 8.1 machine. It's got PowerShell 4 on it. How many, commandlets can I get on this machine? I can just go get command. and it will list like a whole bunch of commands for me, but I don't have time to be counting that. You can pipe that into the measure command, into the measure or measure object, whichever one, and it will actually give you the count of commandlets that I have on this machine. So which is 2,276. So that's the one that I've got on this machine. So again, remember that when you're having like all these differences, remember to check your PowerShell version that you have on the machine you're working on. Remember to, after you check the version, like what Andrew said, for example, if you're running PowerShell version 4 on Windows 8 and you're running PowerShell version 4 on Windows 7, PowerShell version 4 on Windows 8 will have more commandlets than PowerShell version 4 on Windows 7. And that's because PowerShell version 4 on Windows 8 will take advantage of some of the new features on Windows 8 that you don't have in Windows 7. So therefore, those part of the commandlets, which are new features in Windows 8, you won't get those on if you're running PowerShell version 4 on Windows 7. So those are the things to watch out for, because many people are like, how come I go to Windows 7, I'm running PowerShell version 4, I've got maybe 1,000 commands, but I'm running PowerShell version 4 on Windows 8 and I'm getting 1,500 commands. You know what's going on? Well, it's because the difference in commands that you're seeing is because PowerShell is taking advantage of the new features of Windows 8, which you don't get on Windows 7, even though you're running PowerShell version 4 on it. So is that clear, or is there any questions regarding that? So we can see people typing in the chat window. So if modules are comparable to MMC snappings, what are commandless comparable to? Commandless are your clicks, basically. So they are the thing that when you click on to say new this one, so commandlets are what you actually use to say new this one, new that one. But the commandlet come in modules. So you load the Active Directory module. Now you can delete users, you can add users. You load the certificate modules. Now you can add certificate, you can delete certificate, you can request certificate. So that's like the commandlet. But then the module that where all those commandlets come under themselves, those module you have to basically, for example, if I want the Active Directory module on this computer, I have to install the remote server administration tool, and then that will give me access to the Active Directory modules on this computer. And so, so comparing PowerShell terms to GUI interaction is really helping me. Yeah, no, it's really, really. I mean, that was one of the things that helped me in the beginning. Like again, the book, I'm not getting any profit from the book, but it's a really good book. I own one. I own a copy. Yeah, that's right, Andrew. So I own a copy of the book, and it's a really good one. It's a really good investment, and it makes things really, really simple. Okay, so now what we've discussed so far, let's do a quick reiteration. So we've discussed PowerShell like MMC empty, to begin to use the power in PowerShell. You have to load extensions. You can either load PSSnapins or modules. PSSnapins are the old method that Microsoft has discouraged people from writing extensions using, PSSnapins again. So modules are like the newer way. And thanks, Andrew, for pointing that out in terms of our modules. They are automatically loaded, unlike snapping that you have to go add snapping every time you want to use the commandlets that come with the snapping. Module, all you have to do is put the module in one of the three folders that Andrew mentioned that came with that. So put the modules in that, and then once you type the command related to that module, it will automatically load itself, and then you can use that. You don't have to go import module every time if you actually put them in the locations in the system path. Then we've talked about PowerShell versions, how we can check our PowerShell version. If we've got this version of PowerShell, how can we update it to a new version of PowerShell? If we want to update it to a new version of PowerShell, the compatibility in terms of some versions of PowerShell you can't install on some versions of operating systems. And because you have the same version of PowerShell on two separate operating systems doesn't mean they're going to have the exact same number of commandlets, because this operating system has more features than the other, so you have more commandlets with that. So good one. So we've made good progress so far. So let's see what the next thing that we're supposed to discuss in this introduction that we're doing. So the next thing is basic syntax, basic PowerShell syntax. Andrew already mentioned that to begin with, which is a really, really nice way to put it. PowerShell basic syntax. So basic syntax of PowerShell. And the basic syntax of PowerShell is simple. Like what Andrew said, it is verb noun. So that's the basic syntax of PowerShell commandlets. Verb followed by noun. The action followed by the object. For example, you want to add a new Active Directory user. Add is the verb, AD user is the noun. So if PowerShell is all about verbs and nouns, there are some standard verbs in PowerShell. So what are those standard verbs? So anyone wants to try. So what are the standard verbs of PowerShell? Who wants to go for it? It's really simple.
Yep.
Get.
Get.
Yeah, good one. What else apart from get? Any other one apart from get? Any other one? So let's go to PowerShell. Let's go. Yeah.
I saw Louis trying to talk, but I think his mic's still
Oh,
off.
Louis, you may have to type. Sorry, Louis, you may have to type because your mic is not working. We're not hearing you for some reason. You may have to type. I think if you type, because we're not hearing you. So look at this. Get action, select verb. So I want to see the verbs that I can use in PowerShell. Okay, that's a lot of verbs. So let's do this. Let's just pick the unique ones so it doesn't list all of them. Here we go. Look at all these verbs that we got. Actually, let's count them. Let's go PowerShell, get PowerShell verb, and let's measure them. Measure is the one that you use to count. Just type anything you.
Yeah, David.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to fire fish here.
Yeah.
Within the console, type in get verb, get hyphen verb.
Get type in verb.
Yep.
Good one. Excellent one.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, if you want to count them, what I'll do is I'll type it in the chat here.
Yeah. Or even if you call it out, I can type it in so people can see it. So if I go get verb, what do you want me to do?
There, it's on the side there.
Okay.
So if you put
okay, yeah,
one thing yeah, there you go, pop it, yeah, put it all in brackets.
Yeah. Yeah. So that lists the verbs that we've got. We've got 98. And look at all these.
So question.
Carry on. Yeah.
So are these verbs universal, or does each module have its own subcategory of verbs?
So
well, one thing that happened when PowerShell first came out, it was like, sorry, is it okay if I answer that, David?
Yeah, carry on, please.
Yeah, when PowerShell first came out, one thing which they prided themselves on saying was, PowerShell is ridiculously easy because it only has 11 verbs, and there was just like, get, set. I mean, that's all you would do in PowerShell. You'd get something, you'd set it, you'd add something, you'd clear something, and then as PowerShell has evolved, over the different versions, you've got more and more verbs available. Now, this is the recommended structure for when you're creating your own PowerShell command list and your PowerShell functions. And this is obviously getting into the more advanced, PowerShell. But as you can see, PowerShell, if you scroll down the right side, David, you see group there. You see you've got groups there. You've got common, you've got data. In fact, let's see if we can do that. Get
you mean to remove the space between them, right?
Say again, sorry.
And to remove the space between them. Is this what you mean? Okay, not count. Remove.
Sorry, just 1 second. Here we go. Type this in. Let me just pop it in the chat for you. Cut and paste this in for me, please.
Which one is that?
There you go.
Okay. Okay.
Oh no. Actually,
without the count. The count.
Yeah.
The count will not work. Yeah.
Yeah, forget that. So yeah.
So again, guys, I'm not sure. I mean, the point of when Andrew and myself, when we're doing something like this, it's not to bring like a kind of intimidation or to kind of say like, these guys are advanced in PowerShell or something like that. The point is, the more you walk around people that use PowerShell, the more you get used to them yourself. So that's the whole point of using them. So for example, as we're using it, you're also seeing, some of the ways and stuff like that. Um, 1 minute. Yeah, sorry, my wife got back home, so I had to go open the door. Yeah, okay. Sorry. Okay. So yeah, so basically you get used to it. So let me pop in the command that Andrew said to put in. So Andrew said get verb, then after you get verb, select group unique. Okay. Group unique. Yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Okay, yeah, so what you've got there is when you look at the verbs available, as you can see, there's only like 7 different categories. You know, you've got your common groups, data, lifecycle, and these are just recommended usage. These aren't cast in stone, basically. So, I mean, don't worry, Eric, if you're thinking to yourself, oh, if I'm going to create my own commandlet, I've got to, use this particular structure. No, you don't have to. I mean, PowerShell will give you warnings, basically, because they want you to have standardization. And PowerShell is written by developers, and developers are, they're not like us sysadmins, where, they can be a very rigid bunch, and they want you to work in a method that other people can actually, pick up on your code. So if you're going to be sharing code, then usually this, the common verbs that they're suggesting there, is what you should be using. And that's all that it means.
Yeah. So what basically, to bring another side to it, is that the people that create PowerShell themselves. So what we're discussing in this module is the core of PowerShell. There's a group in Microsoft that's responsible for the creation, of PowerShell. And what they basically do is they create a framework. And basically they've got like all these verbs, and they basically advise you, like Eric can go off and say you want to write your own module. They'll advise you, Eric, here are some standard verbs, whatever module you create, integrate these verbs, into them to make things simpler, to make things like a standard. Now you can go off and do whatever you want, but they've created a framework for it. So in case you're using PowerShell for Exchange and you're finding out that the commandlets are really, really complicated, don't blame the PowerShell group. Blame the Exchange group, because the Exchange group are responsible for creating their own PowerShell module. Just like VMware has a PowerShell module, Citrix has a PowerShell module. So anyone that wants can create their own PowerShell module, but the PowerShell group is just responsible for the framework behind it. So if you're having issues with the Active Directory module of PowerShell, don't blame the PowerShell guys. They've created a framework, giving it to the Active Directory guys. The Active Directory guy can create their own module. If they like, they can use add user. If they like to add a user, they can say, format user. Whatever they want, they can go ahead and, do that. But then the PowerShell core group has just created a framework for them to build on. I'm not sure if that's clear. Is that clear, or is there any questions regarding that? Is that clear though?
Yeah, it helps.
Yeah.
I guess what I was wondering more so is that all the verbs that you were showing,
Yeah.
are those universal, or are those verbs unique to particular modules, or does each module have unique
So
verbs?
some are unique to particular modules, some are universal. So
Okay, thanks.
yeah, so some are unique to, or let me put it this way, most of them are universal. Because for example, if you're going to be creating a module for an application called Eric, why would you want to use something separate if you want to add something? You just use the standard, so you can see like what this one that Andrew is saying. You've got the common group. Now, why would you want to like start using something complex and something out of the normal standard? You get the point? I'm not sure. Yeah. So some of them are.
This is just basically, it's in simple terms, and it's for commandlets. Just to clarify, if you're creating a commandlet, you want to do something. So you've created a function which works as a commandlet, and you want to share it with your sysadmins, yeah? Now, say for example, you've got the new Active Directory users, and your engineers basically have to use new Active Directory users They have to create an account, and then they have to do set password, and then have to disable it. Now you can create a function which does all of that, and you could call it new standard user, or new my company, new hyphen my company user, yeah, and then literally that is your own function, and it's as simple as that. And then if you wanted to remove it, you could have, remove hyphen standard user, and your function could do something that's unique to your organization. It could remove user account, it could delete the home area, it could also delete the exchange account at the same time, remove any groups, and clean up any other stuff that you actually wanted it to do. But again, that's more advanced as you move forward.
Yeah.
And this is only going to come into play when you start writing your own code.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we should skip on from this.
Yeah.
And,
So,
and
I think we get the point. Yeah.
Really.
I think we get the point of the partial syntax being verb and noun. And here's one good pointer. Again, when we talk about the syntax being verb and noun, one pointer is that the noun most likely or most usually, maybe 95% of the time, will be plural, not singular. So what does that mean? For example, I want to get the services that are running on this computer. It will be get service, not get services. So the noun part of it, the framework or the standard that the PowerShell group was giving is that it's advisable for this to be in plural, to be in singular, not plural. So most people, when they create their modules, create them with this mindset of the noun bit is going to be plural. So if you're in an exam and you're seeing, what are the commands to list services, and you see get services, that's a pointer because the noun part is plural. That's like a big star there. If I go to get services, I get an error message, but the command is get service. Okay, I want to get like get process. If I go get processes, I get an error message. So the noun bit, 95% of the time will be singular, not plural. So you get the action, the verb, and then the noun bit most of the time will be singular, not plural. Andrew or Frank or Louis, do you have any other pointers regarding verbs and nouns? Like you're working with PowerShell. Have you seen anything in terms of verbs and nouns that you want to share with us? Frank, have you seen anything?
Yeah, I like to use that command window in the ISC.
Yep.
That other environment that helps me figure out.
Your voice is breaking. Your voice is breaking a lot. Not sure why.
Oh, sorry. I was saying, is that better?
No, at all. Are you getting the same thing, guys? Is it breaking? Is Frank's voice breaking at your hand, sir?
Yeah, it's choppy, but I'm piecing together.
Okay. Carry on, Frank.
Like I was saying, I like to prefer to use the command add-on for the ISE to try to figure out what I'm trying to do with the commandlets, according to what job I need to get done, and that helps me learn a lot.
Yep. Good one. What about Louis or even Eric? Got any pointers on PowerShell of things that you've learned from your working with PowerShell? Anything? Okay. So basically, let's move on a bit then. So again, just remember like all the things that we've discussed so far, they're really, really important. So you have standard verbs, and then you have the nouns. And like we mentioned, about 95% of the time, the nouns are singular. So you find some odd ones, some odd developer somewhere that has created a module that they're using plural, but the standard that you find out there is that it's going to be singular. So that's the basic PowerShell syntax. So let's move a bit forward in terms of this one. Then we're going to call it a day for today in terms of like the basics, the very, very basics that we're discussing. So what's the next thing that we ought to discuss in this module? Okay, so we're discussing.
Sorry guys, I'm back. I just had to nip away. Is Jason online now?
Yeah, he is online. Got Jason online now.
Hey Jason.
Hello.
You're muted there, mate.
You're muted. You have to mute yourself. There's a mute. If you scroll down to your picture. Yeah,
How
hello.
you doing?
Yeah. Okay, yeah, good one. Okay, so the next thing that we're supposed to be discussing in this particular module that we're discussing is the pipeline. Okay, so what about the pipeline? I mean, because these are just the basics of PowerShell. What about the pipeline? So, Andrew, you want to give us like your own brief explanation of what the pipeline is, what it does?
Yeah, okay. Well, we actually saw an example of the pipeline before. Do
Yeah,
you want to bring back up your console?
yeah,
If I actually, can I share my screen?
yeah. Sure, you can.
Let me give you guys a quick demo of the
So
pipeline,
I'll,
yeah?
I'll stop my own screen.
Um, Let me share my PowerShell console for you. Let me know if you can all see
Yep,
my screen.
I can see your screen now.
Right, brilliant. Okay, so essentially the pipeline, and the pipeline is nothing new. The pipeline's been around in the Windows command shell from the year, the year dot. Back in the day, only you really clever gurus were using the pipeline. And what it is, basically, if you've got the ability to, whenever you use a commandlet, you've got the ability to send information of that commandlet further down so you can action it later. Let me give a quick demonstration. I mean, you guys can try this yourself in your own consoles, yeah? So if we type in, goodness, hey, if you type in calculator will open up, yeah? If you type it again, you get another session of the calculator, and then bam, yeah? I've got 3 versions of the calculator open now. Now if I do get process, you see I've got 3 processes there now called calculator.
Yeah.
Now you see the handles of them, 144, I've got the memory of it, blah, 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 CPU cycles and the like. Now what I can do is I can actually use the pipeline commandlet there, and I can actually do other things to it. For example, I could say stop process, and that will close every instance of calculator I've just had opened. So that's a very
Yeah. So basically,
simple
just to bring up
usage
what
of
Andrew was
pipeline.
saying is that pipeline is a way of passing information forward. So, for
Yeah,
example, you can say get AD user, get all the AD user, then you can pass basically you can hand over the information that you've pulled out, you can hand it over to another command. So you can hand it over to another command that says, from all the AD users that you've gotten for me, select the ones that are the last 10. So you can say select last 10. So it's going to select the last 10. Then you can have a pipeline, which is basically going to pass the next information, the last 10 that you selected, and pass it forward and hand it over to the last command and say, the last 10 that you've selected, I want you to disable them. So pipeline is a way of passing information obtained and passing them forward to another command. That's my own simple way of putting it. So you grab some
yeah,
information, you pass it on to another command. You can filter that information a bit. You take whatever you filtered from, you take it up, you can pass it to another command that way. So it's just a way of passing commands, passing information to different commands. Like what Andros beautifully put it away, you can go, get process calculator. It gets all the calculator processes that are running, but then you can pass that over to the command that says stop them, you know and stuff like that. So it's just a way. So all these ones are basics or foundations that we'll be using when we get to, like, the stages when we start talking about, writing script that will make things simpler for us. We'll start from something simple, and then we'll go from there. So, which is like the pipeline. So the other thing that I want to talk about, which again, it's something that we're probably already familiar with, are variables. So I'll share my screen for this one. So in terms of variables, so Frank, what's your understanding of PowerShell variables? It's like other variables in other programming language, but what's like your understanding of PowerShell variables?
You can create your own. You name them whatever you want.
Good one. Excellent.
Start with a dollar sign.
Yep. Good. Excellent. Excellent. So good one. Very, very good one. So, again, I'm trying to share my screen now, but my computer is going. Okay, here we go. Okay, here we go.
Am I still showing my screen, or is it
No,
closed?
not sharing screen anymore. You're not. We can't
Good.
share screen. Yeah.
So I can type privately then. Thank you.
So if I go, okay, for example, so variable, simple form, it's a way of, storing information, So like what Frank said, I can go variable x equals 1, 2, 3. And then if I go write host x, I get the content of that. And somebody says, well, yeah, we know that, it's really simple. We use that all the while, like whenever we do any programming course, we use that. What's like the benefit of this? Where you begin to see the benefit of this is when you're trying to automate stuff. So for example, let's say things like, if you get, um, what can I get? There's something I can, what is it I can get that I can use as this example? Let's get net adapter. Yeah, my PowerShell is, let's go, let's just clear screen. Here we go. Okay, so let's go get net adapter, which should give me the net adapters that I have on this computer. So here we go. We've got all these net adapters. So let's say get net adapter. I want to select name Ethernet, because that's the name of this one there. It says Ethernet here. So I want to get that particular one, not all of them. So it gets me net adapter name Ethernet. Come on. Yeah, there we go. So what can happen is, let's say, for example, I want to use the MAC address of this one in a particular script for some reason, for some crazy reason. I just want to do that. So, variable creates like where I can do the thing that Andrew said earlier. I can go variable Ethernet MAC equals to, I can use the command here, which is basically this one. And like what Andrew, oh, okay. Is it back now? Hello, can you hear me now? Hello, can you hear me? Because someone said lost connection. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's all right.
Looks like Jason's lost his connection.
Okay. Yeah, it's all right. Okay, so I can go pipe there and say this command, if again, like what Andrew pointed to earlier, if I use dot any of these attributes, it will actually bring out the attribute for me. So I can say dot MAC address here. And basically what I'm doing is I'm getting this MAC address and I'm storing it in that variable. And now if I go write host, yeah, again, we'll talk about this one later. Write host, and I go Ethernet MAC. Now I've got the MAC address of this adapter stored in a variable. So basically, it's a powerful way if you start to like write your script where you can go, Oh, thanks very much for that. Thanks very much. Nice one, Frank. So Frank's giving me another way to do this. So one thing is I can go, into whatever thing I want to pull a report on, pull the report, store it in a variable, and use it in another area of my script. So which is where you begin to see the power of variables. When you're using it from the command line, you may be thinking, what's the purpose of me just going here and just going, $, y equals to something? Yeah, you're right. There may not be much power there, but the power comes when you're beginning to use them to automate some of your tasks. Because you can go pull up a particular information that you want, store it in a variable, and then reference it later in one of your scripts. So which is why why we're talking about variables and pipelines, because everything will come together later. Don't worry. so this is kind of like the foundation, but then everything will begin to be coming together. So Andrew, you've got anything to add to that?
Yeah, let me share my screen again quickly if that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. So as you've seen, get help about variables, which I've shared in the chat. That's a useful commandlet to know.
Yeah.
Like I said before, with my little calculator demo,
Yeah.
Let's run 3 instances of calculator again.
Yeah.
Now, when I typed get process there, Now, one thing to notice about about PowerShell is the variables. Everything in PowerShell is an object. And all the code savvy developers used to tell me, oh, all your variables are objects. And I used to be like, what? What's an object? What do you mean a variable's an object? It makes absolutely no sense to me. So let me digress a little bit. Here, I've got a string there called Andrew. Yeah? Here, I've got a number 5. It returns number 5. If I stick this in a variable, name equals Andrew, yeah? And I create another variable, look at that variable, rather, name, there's Andrew. If I create another one, number equals 5, and look at that. Now let's examine those variables. Name, get type. As you can see, the name, Andrew, is actually a system object. It's a string object. If we look at the number, it's actually an integer 32. So literally, PowerShell automatically detects what you're working with, and it creates an object for it of a specific type, because what it can do later on is it can do really clever stuff. Because say, for example, you've got an IP address. You could cast something, IP address, and we'll create an empty variable, and we call it IP address. And let's clever and just stick capitals in there, yeah? So there's an empty variable, yeah? Let's stick an IP address in it. IP address equals 10.0.0.1. If we look at our IP address now, if we do get type, I'm going to cast it to get member, yeah? Yay! It didn't like that, did it?
And I think you can use that to replace get type.
Yeah, but it doesn't look like it's actually stored it as a variable. Oh, there you go. A string IP. Oh, there you go. Maybe I typed it wrong. Let's have a look at that. IP address. That's because I've created an. I'm going to remove that variable. Remove variable. Right, let's start again. IP address equals 10.0.0.1. This isn't a very good demo, this is it? Let's pop it in variables. There we go. Hey, at last. Whew. Okay. Sometimes PowerShell can be a bit funny. As you can see there, I've tried to cast this numeric structure into this IP address object here, and it hasn't had it. What it hasn't taken, it's expecting a string input, and sometimes PowerShell will expect a string input.
Yeah. So can you help us? Can you help us a little bit here, Andrew? So what's the purpose? For example, now we understand why we use the dollar sign. Can you help us to understand what's the purpose of the rectangular bracket that you had in the beginning of that?
Yeah. Okay. I'll show you that. Yeah. What I've got there is that's what's called casting, because PowerShell is written on top of .NET, yeah? So literally here, yeah, I've got the number 4, yeah? Now, remember I had a variable called number. And under that number I had number 5, yeah? So if I do 4 plus number, that's 9, yeah? Okay, you didn't know you could do that, did you? You can actually do simple mathematics in the PowerShell console as well. Now, say for example, yeah, I was I let PowerShell actually cast that automatically for me. Now, say for example, I told PowerShell that numbers was actually a string, yeah? And number 5 was a string. If I look at numbers now, yeah, it looks exactly the same as numbers, yeah? However, if I do 4 plus numbers, that's actually worked. So that's supposed to return, and that's the error for me.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I know. I get what you mean. But does everyone else get? No, I get what you're talking about. Does everyone else get what Andrew is pointing to? So what Andrew is saying is that, for example, you can have maybe 5 may not be like a good one. Let's say maybe like the one that you had earlier, like the 10.0.0.1 or something like that. But you get the point is that it can be a string or it can be a number, you know. So what Andrew is saying is that in the beginning, it's got the IP address in curly brackets to basically tell sort of like the type, you know, like as it's got string in the beginning of numbers here, it's trying to say I'm putting this variable called 5, but I want you to store this as a string.
Yeah, the reason, like I said, basically, yeah, this is what's called casting, yeah? So literally that IP address is a .NET function, and I've used it basically to tell it that this particular object is an IP address. So here, maybe you see like I put 10.0.0.1 in there, yeah? If I try to put something in there and change it, 10.0.0.2, yeah? And if I look at it now, it's a new number, 10.0.0.2. Now, if I try to do 265, is that a valid IP address?
No.
There you go. You can't stick the 265 in there because literally I've cast this variable as an IP address, so it's only going to take a valid IP address. So it's a way of protecting your data. Last thing I'm going to show you is get variable. This lists all the variables that you've got in memory. I was going to show you a quick demo of calc. In fact, let me just quickly show you this last thing. Yeah, get process. Yeah. So here we've got process equals calc. Yeah. You've got process, so there you could select last one, yeah? And you could say stop process.
Pipe, yeah.
In fact, you know what, let's do them all. You could do process stop, oh goodness, stop process. And that will stop them all, yeah? If you do get process calc now, yeah? There's no processes called calc. However, that information is still stored in that variable for you. Okay, so you could actually still retain the information of what it was and use it later. You could actually, you know, output it to a file or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You can do whatever you want. Anyway, end of that demo. Back to you, David.
Very good one. Very good one. So, I mean, the whole point is that what we're hoping to do with this whole series, because this is where we're going to stop for now. But so what we're trying to do with this whole series is to get like the foundation of PowerShell laid for, for group members that are interested, about what the basics are, what the foundation are. We get to talk about them. We get to talk about people that are using PowerShell in their own environment. You get to discuss with them and rub minds together and all that. And at the end, we'll have 6 hangouts on basics of PowerShell and 3 hangouts on more advanced PowerShell, where we'll talk about like just basic. We call it advanced PowerShell, but we'll be talking about basic scripting. How to automate simple tasks for like Active Directory administration and how to automate simple tasks for like just Windows Server administration, and just giving examples of how to do stuff like that. So I hope that we've learned something from today. For me, I have learned something from like Andrew's demonstrations and from our discussions and stuff, and I hope that we've all learned something from today. And it's going to be same time next week. We're gonna continue. So next week we'll be doing what are we doing next week? So next week we'll be doing PowerShell remoting. We're gonna be talking a bit more about the operators of PowerShell, like what are the different operators. So those are the building blocks I use for scripting. So what are the operators of PowerShell? What's basic PowerShell formatting, PowerShell remoting, and maybe scheduling tasks in PowerShell, working with credentials, and then regular expressions. So again, we're just laying the foundations where everything will now come together much more later. So it's just 6 Hangout series on PowerShell basics, and then 3 more on advanced PowerShell. And we'll be discussing Andrew's favorite topic last, which is desired state configuration, because that's becoming much more popular these days. So, so it's becoming much more popular these days. So we'll be ending with that. So I hope you've got something, guys. Did you get anything, Eric and Frank and Louis? I know I got something. I think it's been really useful for me. Yeah, good one. Good one. So again, next week we'll carry on from here next week. So the recording of this hangout will be. I'll try to post it as soon as possible. So in case you're interested in the recording and you want to point it out to someone, it will be on the community page at some point this week. So thanks very much, guys. Nice hanging out with you. Thanks very much, Andrew. Really appreciate all your explanations. Really, really good.
Yeah, thanks for hosting.
Yeah, no, no problem. It's all right. And thanks
Thanks,
very much.
guys.
Yeah, thanks very much, Frank and Louis and Eric. Louis, make sure you sort out your microphone so we can hear you next time. Yeah. Yeah. So we can hear you next time. You sort out the microphone. Yeah. See you, Frank. See you, Louis. Yeah. Have a good week. Yeah. Bye bye.